welcome to the podcast. This is the second episode, so we're still figuring out everything and what we're doing. Kyle is going to be co-hosting with me, and we're going to be doing episodes on solo episodes, separate from each other, episodes together. We could do a hosting guest alone. It's kind of just free form and figuring out what we like, what we don't like, and how we want to do podcasting and figuring out how to talk.
Sure.
To people and interview. So it's a little bit tough. But our guest today is Toast, aka Destin. He has been a good friend of mine for probably 7-8 years now. We met. The first time we met was going and attempting to do portrait photography. We both are into photography, and we were learning and trying to become better at it. And so we set up this meetup to go at Sensi here in Boise and try and take some photos. And that was the first time we met, and we just kept taking photos and became better and better friends. And we ended up doing this thing called Sunrise Dogs, where we would wake up in the morning and go take photos of the sunrise. Almost every single morning for about 6 months, we did that with our dogs and tried to travel around and see cool new things. He's a man of mystery. He's a man of many talents. He does a bunch of things. I think Toast is one of the most charismatic people that I know, and is one of the people that can make friends more quickly than anybody else that I've ever seen. And he uses that really well in everything that he does. He's created a life that he's been able to do what he wants and make a living doing that. And it's really, really cool. So he's been in real estate for 12 years now. Been doing photography and real estate photography for a while. And then he just partnered with a friend to do a screen printing business. So we are glad to have him on the show and excited to have him here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a fun experience.
Awesome. So the first thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is I know that your brother is a broker, right? Mm-hmm. And was that kind of your introduction into real estate, or how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, so real estate in my family goes back a ways. One generation. My mom was a single mother living in Utah, and she had 2 kids and was working at a grocery store, decided that wasn't a way to make enough money. So she got her real estate license and started showing homes, and only lasted about a year in the business because she was losing money every time she went to show homes. She had to get a babysitter, and then if she didn't sell anything, she just was watching money walk out the door. So fast forward, 20 years later, my brother is trying to figure out what he wants to do with his life, and decides to get into real estate. And then 10 years after that, I'm looking to buy my first house, and I say, hey, you've been doing real estate about 10 years. Can you help me buy a house? And he had just opened the brokerage, and he said, no. And I said, what? And he goes, I don't need new clients. I need new agents. Go get your license and do it yourself. And I was working at a law firm full time at the time, also going to school full time. And I just said, cool, yeah, I'll do it. So I quit my job. I started taking the real estate classes, and within 3 months I had my real estate license.
Was your brother, was he good at it? And I asked that because obviously if he was just was he crushing it? What made that an easy decision?
Yeah, so my brother is, Stetson just said a lot of nice things about me, and everything that he just said about me, you could apply to my brother as well. He is incredibly good at building and maintaining relationships. He's an incredible salesman, so much better at sales than I'll ever be. And that's just his personality, So yes, he was a very good real estate agent. He had started his brokerage. At the time, I think there were 3 agents, and now it's over 300 agents.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It sounds like he's crushing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, sounds like that was an easy decision, because the question comes from like a salesman's perspective of like, you don't want to go follow somebody that's not doing really well or a really good example. And so either your brother is good at convincing little brother to do things, even though he's not yet good at it, or he just is phenomenal at it. So made it an easy decision. So that's why I was curious, but yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. He's good at everything he does,
Yeah.
you know, just like what you were talking about with Stetson. He's not somebody that you bet against,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Was doing something in that kind of spirit something you always thought that you were going to do? You said that you were working at a law firm before. I know that you had just posted on Instagram that you're saying that you really loved an argument for an argument's sake when you were younger, and so was lawyer where you were going, and then you transitioned into real estate, or what made that?
Yeah, so growing up, I thought that there were only two professions in the world. Well, three. The oldest profession, and then doctor and lawyer. And so in my head, one of those was out, but two of those.
I thought the other one was in.
That's what I thought you were about to say. Yeah.
I didn't think I had the stamina for the first one, but I don't tell my brother or don't remind him, but we actually have a bet that I would become a doctor by the time I was 34. I think I'm 34 right now. I think I might have to pay him and a few other people like $1,500 since I'm not a doctor now, but he won't listen to this. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed arguing. I liked the sound of my own voice for whatever reason. Those listening probably won't, but in my head it sounded good. Yeah. And so it needed to be heard. And, I did like the idea of being an attorney until I worked at a law firm and I realized what their lifestyle is. Yeah. And that just wasn't going to fit for me. So
when was it? Tell me. So you and I, we've known each other for a while, but not really. Like, we've had a few interactions. And so to comment on what Stetson said earlier, like, which I never put it together until you just said it, but you are really good at just feeling like a homie really quick. Because we met, the time we met was you showing me that house, if you remember. And then I think the second time ever was at the Big House when we were, I think that's the second time ever
I think so,
that we had interacted. But it felt like we were buddies. And so that's just I don't know, it just shows you how you really are. But what time, how long have you been doing real estate?
Just about 12 years now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And like that relationship side has to be like the most important thing about real estate, right? And what would you say is, because you are so good at making new friends and maintaining friendships and things like that, what would be something that you found is helps you in that?
Yeah. I guess growing up, I was really judgmental. I would make snap decisions on if I liked people or not based on, how they looked or one thing that they said to me. Growing up, I've realized that there's so much more to people than my initial feeling about them. And I think the biggest thing for me in building these relationships is being curious about somebody. I found that you can't dislike somebody once you know their story better, and so I just try to get to know their background, what makes them tick, what they're interested in, all those things.
Sincerity and being genuine. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But you can't fake.
Right. Yeah. You can, but
it doesn't. You find out.
Do you think that that's something that you've built, over your time of doing entrepreneurial things and being a real estate agent and, just putting yourself out there to make friends? Do you think that that's something that you've curated, or is it something that you kind of just naturally were good at?
I don't think I was naturally good at it. Growing up, I was really shy and I didn't talk to people very much. I had like a very close-knit group of friends that we would interact in these sorts of ways, but I didn't expand that group very well. I don't think it was until my mission that when I was forced to talk to other people, and I was forced to find out, what do people think is interesting about me, and then once I figured out what was interesting about me, then I was able to think, what's interesting about other people to me, and so I guess it's just grown over time, my curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that like being on a mission, we've all served LDS missions. I do think that time of your life really helps you to look outward in a way and be curious about other people and figuring out, what does this person actually believe, or what does this person like want in life, or what is like their, what motivates them, and what, is the most important thing to them and their family and their future. And, and it like puts you in this mind frame of just exploration into another person, which is, it's really interesting and different, like that skill that you can like learn and use on your mission, and translates into like everyday life. What, I want to hear a story about one of your first real estate deals, and how that went in comparison to kind of how you do things now, and like for somebody that might be just starting in real estate or might be starting into sales or something similar as real estate, like, they could learn from, this is where I started, this is where I'm at.
Yeah. Starting out in real estate, I was 23 years old, and I looked like I was about 17. So getting people to trust me with the biggest investment of their life was a little bit difficult. I guess one story that comes to mind was one of my old bishops wanted to be one of my first clients, and he had a bunch of money to invest. He told me this was literally a dream client to have as one of your first clients, because he comes to me and says, we can buy anything up to $1 million. And this is when the average sales price was $150,000.
You had 0 sales at this point.
I had 0 sales. So I'm like, okay, let's get going. And so I start scanning everything. I'm looking for anything that has a 12% cap rate, which was still hard to find at that point. But I end up finding a few things. We go under contract on one. I think it was like $130,000 or something like that. I did try to pitch him the entire apartment complex for $1 million.
Yeah.
The numbers didn't work for him, so we didn't go for it. But anyways, we go under contract for this one, and it's an REO, so it's a bank-owned property. There were a lot of those back then. In fact, all of my first year, all of my sales were either bank-owned or short sales. Like nothing was a traditional sale.
And what year was this?
This was 2012, I think.
And was there a reason for that? I don't know much about real estate.
So we were just coming out of the 2008 crash. Sure. And so that's when prices were starting to come back to normal, but still a lot of people were underwater because of where they bought at. And so people needed to move. They couldn't keep up with the payments, and just a lot of stuff. So there's still
homes that haven't moved in that 4-year period.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Dang. Okay.
Or even I did have a client who, she needed to sell because of a divorce.
Whatever,
yeah.
Got it.
So, anyways, we get this property under contract. Since it's a bank-owned property, there are a few different things that you have to do and keep track of, and the timelines are a little bit more important. And with all of the deals that I had going on at that point, it was like nothing would happen, and then all of a sudden they'd be like, we need this signed right now, within the next 3 hours, or the deal's dead. And it was very frustrating. But this guy, since he's got $1 million in cash that he can do right now, like he's a successful guy, he's a busy guy, he's not getting on my emails as fast as I like him to.
Sure.
So I sent him an email. I'm like, hey, we need to have this signed before the end of the weekend. Friday rolls around, don't hear from him. Saturday comes up, haven't heard from him. But I know that he's going to be at this event at my parents' church. So I go to my parents' church and just hanging out, schmoozing a little bit. And I see him over there, and I walk up, and he's in the middle of a conversation, but I'm nervous. I'm a nervous guy at this point. I'm like, I'm going to lose the only sale that I have going right now. And so I walk up to him, and I'm like, hey, we got to get that thing signed real quick. And he's like, yep, we'll take care of it. And just completely silenced me. I walked away with my head down. And, and that was kind of the way that I was the first year of real estate. They say that it takes about 5 years to get used to like the stress of real estate. Probably took me, I don't think I took a vacation until 5 years in. And
what type of stress is it? Because like with entrepreneurship and everything else like that, it's so hard to like really describe the type of feeling and the difference of weight and stress and the stress that you have. And like, I think there is this perception of real estate agents as they don't really do that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's like even like a bill going on right now to like take away like the mandated like percentage, right? Like,
so I'll get into that.
Yeah.
As far as the stress, number one, it was the first business I'd ever been involved in. And so I went from having a secure paycheck every week, every 2 weeks or whatever, to having no income unless I brought it in myself. So that first sale took me 9 months to close. And I got down to $25 in my bank account. Like I was calling up my parents, hey, can I do chores for you to like make $20 this week or something? Yeah. And anyways, it's a totally different stress because number one, your paycheck is not guaranteed at all. Number two, you feel like you have to be on call at all times. Like, especially being young in the business, you feel like you have to be Johnny on the spot. Somebody calls you and they want to go see a property, you have to be available. So I was leaving social functions, early, which is not like me. I'm usually the guy who stays till the end, and I'd get a call and I'd have to go right then, and just always had my phone on me. So then I wasn't even doing outdoorsy stuff, which that I do a lot of, because I couldn't be out of cell service, and that was about 5 years that happened.
Do you think that like in that time period, like going through that 5 years, the 5 years maybe isn't necessarily like a time thing, but it's more a comfortability thing, where you're just like, this is the life that I have to live? Because at that 5 year mark, you're really, really reaching that burnout stage.
Yeah. And
you're like right there where you're just like, I either have to change how I do this, or I am hanging it up and I'm never doing it again. So do you like at that 5 year stage and like, transitioning into, how you live your life now and looking at that feeling of freedom and, like flexibility and that like, and everyone looks at like someone that's pretty successful, what they do is like, they don't do much, so like now having that air 12 years in, like, oh, Toast doesn't do anything in real estate. Do you think that like somebody that is, heads up, they can kind of do that earlier than 5 years, and transition into something, or does it just take that confidence of I can do this while still being who I am?
Yeah. I guess, yeah, I didn't really know who I was at that point in my life. I was still trying to figure that out. So I didn't know what people's lives looked like. I didn't know what my life looked like or what I wanted it to look like or who I wanted to be at that point. So I was kind of just trying to stay ahead or trying to keep afloat. Right. And, I think that other people could do it a lot better and a lot quicker than I did. I think there's a lot of people who could be much better real estate agents than I am.
So for you, what were those things that, you figured out at year 5 that were just like, I have to have this in my life or I can't keep going with real estate?
Yeah. I guess for those 5 years, real estate was my life, and I didn't hardly do anything outside of that. All of my thought process were about how do I get more clients? How do I close more deals? And growing up, I was always a very artistic person. That's what I thought I was going to do with my life. Aside from doctor, lawyer, prostitute, there was also artist. But artists didn't make any money was the thing. So that was what I was led to believe. So I didn't pursue art, but it was still something that I was passionate about and I enjoyed doing. So at year 5, I actually started getting back into drawing, which I had put off for 3-4 years, and really enjoyed that. At year 6, I ended up buying a camera, and that's when photography became a huge part of my life, and that was my artistic outlet. That was something that I became super passionate about very quickly. And I think just having different things going on allowed me to have a better work-life balance.
What I think question I have, do you think that the effort that you were putting in over those 5 years, that is just as what was required of you? So it wasn't a matter of like you became what seems like obsessive, but it's because it's what you had to do. Otherwise, that would have been 7 years, or otherwise, and maybe that's not the case for everybody. But is that why like everything else took a back burners? Because I need money, you needed money, and you realized this is my goal, and to get to that requires a specific effort. You have what you have right now because of the exact effort that's getting put in. Like, is that kind
Absolutely.
of why?
Yeah. Like you said, needed money, right? A lot of things are not possible without money, and a lot of things are more possible with money. And so I had all these goals, all these things that I wanted to do. And as I went through life, they kept piling up.
Yeah.
And, those 5 years that I put in are what are allowing me to have the lifestyle that I have now, which is a lot more freedom. Yeah.
So maybe that is shorter for some people, but in the reality, like it's probably not for most. Like if you want these things, you got the same goals as Toast. This is the effort that is required, more or less.
And yes, but I do think that there are people who are more capable of doing it quicker than I am. There's a lot of things that getting into the business, like I said, I was very judgmental when I was younger. And so there's a lot of things that I wouldn't do because I thought that they were beneath me or something, oh, I can't go down that road because that's not something that I would do.
Yeah.
I don't like doing that. So I'm not going to build my business around that. And, there's a trade-off, right? Like a lot of people are making a lot more money than I do because they're willing to do those things. I'm not willing to do certain things because it's not how I want my life to look. And, I take a pay cut because of that.
Yeah. I think like if anything, entrepreneur, like commission based or sales based or whatever it might be, you're creating income for yourself. Everything is earned like in the long term, like every hour that you put in that you're not guaranteed anything on the output, that hour like is earned back years and years down the road, And so like looking at your life now or looking at really successful real estate agents, it is easy to like look back and just be like, oh, these guys don't do anything, but what they don't see is that grind and is that stress and is that like
sleepless nights
and hard things and not going and doing the things you love for 5 years and learning something that was very hard for you and becoming more confident and putting yourself in extra stressful situations that you were stretching into something that you didn't really want to be, but you saw potential in it, and so you kept going. And like all that stuff just equates to like really earning the freedom on the other side of that. And so with that, I know now you take your skills of making friends and your love of photography and Toast. His Instagram's awesome. You guys should follow him and see all of his photos that he posts almost every day. And the stories connected to him are even better. He's a really good storyteller. But you started with a buddy, the 208 Film Society, which is just a group of people taking film photos, right? Just traveling around. And then from there, well, before that, you started doing like real estate photography and things like that. Was photography just that, because you talked about art and drawing and things, was photography just another outlet of that creative, bug that you had inside you? And has it always been something that you enjoyed? I know that your grandpa was a photographer, right? And
Yeah. So my dad and my grandpa were both really good photographers, just amateur on the fun side, right? But my grandpa had a whole dark room set up in all of the houses that he had, and enlargers and everything. When I was growing up, I always looked at photography as the cheater's way, because I was into drawing, I was into painting. You had to come up with it out of your brain, right? And photography, you just look at something and you're like, that's cool. Sure. We're done. But photography has become such an art form in and of itself, and it always has been. That was a flaw in my own thinking. But to answer your question, photography has become my main creative outlet. I am back into painting and drawing and all that stuff as well, but most of my time goes to photography. It is my stress reliever, except for on paid jobs, it becomes my stress giver. And
lost a light.
Light bulb just went out.
Nice.
So with that too, like a lot of people, they think, to have a happy life and to like do what I want to do and be the best person I can be, I have to chase my passion. And I have to chase like what makes me happy, and I have to do what like gives me meaning. What I found is like most of the people that I know that are able to do a lot of the things that they're passionate about were created freedom in their life long before having that passion. And so like, with you using photography and having it be a huge part of your life now, but then also doing real estate photography, do you think that like it's hard to take like something that you love and then monetize it as well?
Yeah, I think like you're talking about, right? Like, and even with your own business, the Night Owl Janitorial, it's not glamorous. It's a way to make money, right? With photography, there are a lot of opportunities to make money if you look at the things that aren't so glamorous. There's a lot of opportunities on the glamorous side too, but there's a lot more competition to get those jobs. So I started looking for things that people need and they're going to consistently need, and a pipeline that I could build, right? And I already had.
All right, so our recorder died. So we start there. Where were we at?
I was saying I needed a pipeline, and I already had 100 agents at my brother's brokerage that I knew pretty well. And actually, I didn't even try to get any business for real estate photography initially. An agent just reached out to me, knew that I had a camera, and said, "Hey, our normal photographer can't make it out here. We need to list this today. Is there any chance you can go take photos?" And I said, I'll try. And the house sold that day after they posted the photos.
And they're so good.
They were horrendous. They were so bad. But the market was just that fast and the price was so low that they called me their good luck charm, but I had nothing to do with that sale.
So do you think that, I know that like the passion side of things and things like that, I do believe that the reason why people's passions and things work after they've initially gone through that like non-glamorous, like just money-making business that you grind out for, 5 or 6 years and figure out it becomes a little bit more automated, is because they've learned the principles of business. Mm-hmm. And so taking those principles of business, like opportunities and different things that allow you to do what you actually like to do, kind of start popping up more. Mm-hmm. And so I know that you just partnered with a friend for your screen printing business. Was that, how did that kind of come about? Like a lot of these things, like if you're just looking for them, they kind of happen, but how did that come about for you?
Yeah. So my buddy and I, his name's Chad Powell, we work out on Tuesdays together. And just through working out with each other for the last 3 years, every week, I heard about the struggles that he was having with the screen printing business and how it just wasn't going the way that he wanted to. And he needed somebody to kind of step up and be responsible for it and start selling more and actually doing the work, because he has too many businesses that he's involved with. Mm-hmm. And I just thought to myself, I've got some time. And so he brought it up one time and I said, yeah, I think I'd be interested in that. Because I've used his screen printing services before. And so I know that it's a good product. And I just said, I'd like to be involved in that. And he said, I was hoping you'd say that.
And I said, have you learned anything from, because this is very much like a product-based business, where your other businesses, I know photography and real estate is a product, but it's a little bit nuanced, and then real estate's like relationship-based and it's sales, and it's just direct. Have you struggled or had any things that from, the screen printing business as like a service or product to sales, like what are some differences that you've seen there, or struggles that you've had so far?
I think the biggest struggle that I've had so far is that I haven't had a business partner in 12 years. Mm-hmm. And so having somebody that I have to be accountable to initially feels like a restriction of the freedom that I've built. But in order to grow as a person, as a business owner, as a partner, you do have to subject yourself to some things that are maybe a little bit restricting now, but will allow you to have more freedom in the future when we start hiring employees and things like that. So
I have a question. I think often you hear, like you see maybe entrepreneurial examples or business owners examples, and it sounds like they're involved in a bunch of different things and that works for them. And then you have others that are maybe, and I hate the term, but like business influencers that you see on like YouTube or whatever, where they're like, if you don't focus on the one thing, they're all going to fail. So like in your experience doing this, being a new business, have you had to not do those other things as much, or do you feel like spread thin, or do you feel like you're able to distribute your efforts properly that in an appropriate manner that each require to grow them how you want to grow them? Like what's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, it's been interesting. That's a good question. I would say that the life work balance has been a little bit hard to find with adding an extra business, but I think I'm getting there. And so I guess initially having that extra workload was a lot, and I did feel spread thin quite often.
How long has it been? Sorry.
I believe our first month as actual partners was February, so not very long. I've been working with him behind the scenes since about December on it, but it's a new thing. It's a new challenge that I'm learning as far as the workload and everything else. But yeah,
I'm excited to see how you do with it, because in your other successful ventures, they've been solo. Where you haven't had to have partners, you haven't had to have employees, you haven't had to manage those relationships, you haven't had payroll, you haven't had like all these other things, to where like with the screen printing business, to scale, the only way to scale is to either outsource, into like an automated, print on demand screen printing, which doesn't really make sense for the margins, unless you have just an outrageous amount of sales that you can, push out there. Other way is to have people working for you so that it buys you back that time. But then you have the other struggle of, how do I train? How do I hire? How do I create these systems? And I'm interested to see how that works. And do you think that that's something that you're excited about, something you're nervous about, as far as that different side of entrepreneurship?
Nervous. Yeah, I have never thought about having to do all those things. And so it is a little bit nerve-wracking thinking that in the future I could be responsible for somebody's livelihood, having to make sure that there's enough business for an employee to get paid, that feels like a big undertaking.
Yeah, it's what I love about, these transitions into different businesses and things like that is it's like you have the skills, that you can be successful at business. That you can be successful at managing your own time. You can be successful at selling. But going in and just jumping headfirst into this new venture, into the idea of this is something completely novel to me. And there's so many lessons to be learned there. And there's so many hardships that are that you don't even know, that are on the horizon that will come, that will be exciting to watch you navigate, just because you are really good at understanding who you are. And I do think that that's the foundation of creating a really good team around you is having a good knowledge of who I am. And you're doing the work right now of going out and doing and screen printing the shirts and delivering the product and learning the systems. And a lot of people they think that their first initial step is to hire somebody to do something that they never even figured out yet.
Yeah. And that's why I'm really grateful to have such a good partner. He's been doing this for about 6 years. And so he also owns a local gym here. So he knows how to hire people. He's done all the things that I'm worried about doing. And so it's really nice to have somebody who does have that experience and can help me process that. Yeah.
And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't consider when they're looking at partners. I can't remember where I heard this from, but I find a lot of value in it. I know it was from some podcast or some YouTube video or something that I watched. They said, well, when you're looking for a partner, you have to look at 3 things. Do they have more experience than you do? Do they have more time than you do? Or do they have more money than you do? And if they don't have one of those 3 things, then you're not partnering with somebody. You are the same person. Yeah. And so when you're looking for somebody to partner with in business or whatever it is, I want someone to join my venture, I want someone to bring in, you really do have to examine it in that way of what differences is this person going to offer me that will help me and my skills be better.
And I think what's really cool too about what you're going to be experiencing here shortly and as you grow is you knew that it was going to be challenging, yet you undertook that, you were willing. You've already 12 years ago, you went through these stresses and you thought maybe I'm past that, but you're willing again to go into the unknown and explore that. And so I think all of this is all, fast forward, looking back, it'll be if you're not challenging yourself, if we're not challenging ourselves, we're not understanding what our real potential is. And so we just become normal. We're not the best person we can be, whether that be for a spouse, for kids, for family members, or even just for yourself. And so it's just like anything. If you're not stretching yourself, and I think you realize this because you've already did it, and now you're chilling, you're able to get into art, opportunity present itself, and you're yeah, I'm ready to do that again. But it's just another step in becoming the best toast that toast can be.
Yeah.
And more opportunities will continue to present themselves because of that, it seems.
And to your point, one of the reasons that I did jump at this opportunity was because when he approached me, it was at a time when I realized I'd gotten too comfortable. I was comfortable in my career. I was comfortable in what I was doing in art. I was too comfortable in my diet. I gained about 30 pounds over from 2020 to,
That's disgusting.
and I've lost about 18 of it now.
Nice. Well done.
We're back into the goal weight. So, when I already just getting out of my comfort zone has brought so many different unexpected changes to my life that, health wise, art wise, it kind of jumpstarts your whole system and makes you start thinking about, well, I could do this over here. I could change this, and that would be a lot more optimized. This would be a lot more interesting to me,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I talk to a lot of people about business and entrepreneurship, and almost everybody wants to be a business owner. And when I was younger, I thought everybody should be a business owner because it was like, there is no other way of being. There is no other way of creating your own life. Like, to me, it was the only thing in the world that made sense to do. And so I thought everybody should do it. And so if someone comes up to you and has a business idea or whatever, you're like, yes, do it. You need to do it. You need to do it tomorrow. And what I found is the best thing that I can do for somebody that's, looking to start a business or thinking, oh, this is something that I want to do, is to help them have that introspective look of, are you really a business owner? Are you really an entrepreneur? Are you really somebody that wants that? And I think as we've been talking, something that popped into my mind was one of the key indicators of someone that can be successful as an entrepreneur is somebody that wants and seeks that idea of, I want to jump into something that I don't know. I want to problem solve. I want to be dumb at something to become good at something. I am okay looking like a fool. I am okay making mistakes. I want to learn as fast as I possibly can. And I think that is probably the biggest indicator that I could find in somebody when they ask me, hey, should I start this business? My first question isn't really, what's the business? It's, who are you? And for you, like, looking at your life, it's just so evident that was always like someone that you were meant to be. Somebody that was looking for that challenge, that didn't mind an argument, that wanted to become better, that was always looking for a way to create, whether it be art or your lifestyle or other things. And that's something that I've always really admired about you. You should tell the story of help Toast pay for, what is it?
Toast needs $2,000.
Toast needs $2,000.
It's like a campaign or something.
Yeah. What was it? It was 2010. I was just bull crapping this girl I had a crush on one time. She was asking me about the future, what I was going to do to make money and everything. And I was like, money's not important to me. If I wanted money, I could have it tomorrow. If I wanted $1 million, I could have it like that. And she says, well, how would you do that? And I say, this is before GoFundMe or anything. I say, well, say I have 2,000 friends on Facebook, right? And I say, hey, if all of you give me, what's the math on that? $500 each or something?
$1 million.
Yeah.
Buy something like that, $500,
Yeah.
$1,000.
Whatever. And maybe I would need to increase the number of friends that I had. But eventually, if I just said, hey, I'm trustworthy, you give me this money, I will increase it for you, a lot of people would give me that money. And so I came up with this idea, and I had the goal to ride my bike from Boise to New York City. And I talked to a buddy of mine who had done it, and I said, how much money did it cost you? How much money do you think it would cost me to do it right now? And he said, I think you could get it done in about $2,000. And so I said, okay, $2,000, let's see if this works. And so I made a Facebook page that was called Toasty Needs $2,000. And at first, I just made this very eloquent speech pitch about, everybody deserves to live their dreams. I'm doing this as a way to inspire people to get out there and do the stuff that they want to do. Send me $1. Give me $1. everybody who sees this gives me $1, I'll have $2,000. I think I made about $30 that way. People mailed me money. Like, one of my friends mailed me $1, and it was wrapped inside a note that said, "Never send currency in the mail."
That's funny.
But I realized, okay, maybe this idea isn't all that good. I need to step it up. And so I was talking to my brother, and he said, you should start doing stunts for money. And, basically this whole podcast is about the fact that my brother can convince me to do whatever, And I said, that's a really good idea. So I just put it out there. I will do whatever stunt, we'll just come up with a dollar amount, and
I'll do it.
And I'll do it. And the very first one was, my buddy said, pepper spray, $30. And I said, okay, let's do it. So we went down over by the Boise River, actually after one of our mutual friends' wedding receptions. So we're all dressed up in our nice clothes and everything. My buddy had this pepper spray that was touted as 10 times the potency that the police use. And, he stood 5 feet away from me. I thought that was a little too close, so I kept backing up. He kept coming forward, and eventually he just sprayed me. And there's a video of it. You see it all just coat my entire face. I did a little bit of research, before I did this. I like to know what I'm up against. And so I did some research, and I found out that you can go blind if it gets in your eyes. So I made sure to close my eyes before it hit me. And also that the biggest thing isn't actually, it's not as painful, the stuff that's on your face. It's the stuff that's in the air. And so I just held my breath for about 30 seconds and then backed up. And it still hurt. Yeah. But the remedy for that was pouring milk on my face. So I just laid down and I said, milk. And I think we went through about 3 gallons that night. And my eyelids puffed up so much that I couldn't open them for about 2 hours.
Jeez.
Anyways, that was the first stunt. And then I ended up doing the cinnamon challenge.
Which is hilarious.
And people have died from that.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. So I did my research.
We had my buddy's kids do that.
Really?
Christmas. That's good. I should have known people dying from it, but it was hilarious.
It is funny.
But they were crying by the end.
Yeah. I dominated it.
Nice.
I did my research. I came in with a plan. Done.
Nice.
I think I made like $20 from that. Jumped in a lake in the middle of winter, broke through the ice and everything. So I just did stunts for about 6 months, made $300.
Did you ever get to the 2000?
I did not.
You would now, though.
Oh,
I
for
would
sure.
now. Yeah.
That was 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fast forward 14 years.
Oh, yeah.
Easy.
People would give $20 like nothing now.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
All you have to do is spin
2000
around a
was-
little tablet and say, pick one of these things, and they'll say 20%,
Yeah.
That is true. You charge a tip for your
Just
for
for
your
me
prank.
being there.
Yeah.
It is like they're paying you to pepper spray you. You swipe their card on Square. You
give them the tip.
Yeah.
If you had a good time, go ahead and give me a tip.
You pass it around to everyone that's watching.
Yeah.
If you watched, you need to pay.
Yeah.
No obligation, but it's funding my life. So
I could go blind, people. Yeah. And, we're kind of up on time. I don't want to take up too much of your time. We've had some technical errors a couple of times, so it's been a while. But I'm super glad that you came and that you did this. I hope that we'll have you back to talk about some things in the future. And Toast and I, we go to a movie about once a week as well. I love film and cinema and things like that. And so we've talked about just talking about movies on a podcast. So
and we could talk for hours.
I'll let that be a solo one.
Don't get me started on The Green Knight.
That is horrible. We do have a friend that liked it. We don't really believe it. We just think that they said that they liked it, but Well, sweet. Well, we're gonna end the podcast. You can find Toast on Instagram at what is it?
At Toasty Hug.
At Toasty Hug. And Facebook and everything else too. Like it's just Toast, right?
Yeah. Also, Venmo is at Toasty Hughes.
If you want to send $1, Toast is trying to get to $2,000 again.
14 years later, still working on it.
For the 7 people that will watch this.
Yeah.
If you will send $700 each, he will get.
Yeah.
I'll get there.
He'll get there. All right. Well, we're gonna end it. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks.